There is a second significant portion of Conrad's trial that merits our attention. Let us remember that Conrad is introduced into Stoicism, the philosophy of inner freedom, as the path to human happiness and virtue. His Stoicism makes him independent of others, though he learns, through his attempt to apply Stoicism to his life in prison, that Stoicism fosters courage, but courage is to be put in the service of charity. Conrad helps out the helpless and hopeless Pocahontas after Pocahontas is raped. Pocahontas had been raped by Rotto, the head of one of the prison gangs. While Conrad doesn't tell the guards on Rotto, the very act of calling for help is an act of defiance to Rotto's control, and it would not be difficult for the prison guards to piece things together and to figure out who was responsible for the rape of Pocahontas. In any event, Rotto has had his eye on Conrad before. When Jill, Conrad's wife, came to visit, Conrad was talking to his own girlfriend in the visiting area, and I am leaving out some details here. Rotto had whispered to Conrad, "Conrad, how you doing, bro?" After the guards clear the area of Pocahontas, Conrad goes back to minding his business, though he is very much concerned that he has fallen short of the standard of manhood and virtue. What kind of manhood was it to look the other way and not snitch when a brute decides to have his way with another human being? Yes, what about himself? He had come to Pocahontas's aid when it was altogether too late. Page 453. Conrad suffers a crisis. Note that this is not a crisis he suffered before helping Pocahontas. Before helping Pocahontas, he was worried about whether he should show concern for others at all. After he helps Pocahontas, he worries that he had not helped soon enough. No matter. The second trial begins, and it involves dealing with Rotto. Rotto stands in front of Conrad, and the trial had begun. What was he supposed to do? Rotto treats Conrad as he had treated Pocahontas, and Conrad realizes that he must not fear death or anything. He summons the wisdom of Epictetus. He grabs Rotto's hands with his own immense hands and crushes them. He wills their destruction, and he achieves it. He cleanses the world of an unjust and brutal man. Again, this is a controversial thing in the light of Stoic philosophy. One certainly does not fear death as a Stoic, but it is not so clear that one raises one's hand to save oneself. Certainly some of the stoical heroes that Conrad finds attractive do not antagonize or strike out against the legitimate authorities. Rotto is not a legitimate authority, however, and that may explain the difference. It is clear that Conrad sees himself acting as a man, depending on his own arms to protect himself. He asks his cellmate to make sure that his family knows about his actions, so they will know that he lived as a man and died as a man if he is destined to die because of his confrontation with Rotto. This episode shows that Conrad's conception of Stoicism allows him to protect himself against false, excessively domineering practitioners of manliness. It is his philosophy of manly inner freedom that separates him from the false philosophies of those sex-crazed, violent animals in prison. The truly manly man must come to the rescue of the innocent and come to the rescue of themselves from the excessively manly or the irrational. We will see just such an episode later again when Conrad is working as a nurse and he saves the gardeners, adult children, and retired professors from an extortion scheme. This is later, however. For now, the second trial, the trial with Rotto, shows that the Stoic Conrad believes in protecting himself against false forms of manliness, for future use perhaps, and for protecting its own integrity to be sure. This indeed is what the novel broadly teaches. To be a man in full, to be a genuine man and be worthy of the name, one must combat false forms of manliness prevalent in our culture. Charlie's is one such false form, though a prevalent one. This prison culture represents a more extreme and narrow version of Charlie's false form. The Stoic manliness of inner freedom is necessary to resist these prevalent errors, and it is part of what it means to be a man.